the Department of Asian American Studies at UC Davis, and he's inside the system seeing all of this. And look, it's really very simple. And I know most of you know all this, but we have to reach out to middle-class people that can understand it, and to executives and to pastors and to cultural leaders, and explain, look, there's a sophisticated cultural modeling control system developed by the empires in the last, well, thousands of years. Julius Caesar wrote about it a lot, but really codified in the last 200 by the British Empire to administer and control countries along ethnic and religious balkanization lines. So to control that, they've artificially come in and put more of this in the name of political correctness, making it worse, selling it on the idea of equality of men. Just like the Illuminati said they would push equality, but actually their secret was they would use that to get control and then bring in inequality. So that's the name of the game, is they claim all this equality and fraternity of men and women, but when you look at what they do, they bring in dehumanization, dumbing down, deindustrialization, destabilization. And then after they've cut your legs off, they give you crutches in Iraq or Libya, you name it, and say, see the favor we did. We burned your house down and then called a fire truck afterwards. So it is a very wicked management system, and it did not even get full power itself. The West had a little bit more freedom than other cultures, and in my view, and so it was able to produce more science and technology. That was then hijacked, leveraged by a technocracy, and we're now a couple hundred years into this, and now we're going into the endgame stages. And you can debate politics all day and the window dressing of the false spectrum discussions, but you've got to pull the curtain back and look at the real machinery behind it and the little man running it, or there's no beating it. And that's why there's a compulsion to say tinfoil hat, or, you know, there's no world government, or there's no corruption, because they don't even want the debate to begin. There's no NSA watching you or listening. That's preposterous. Or, of course they're listening, and it's preposterous, you don't like it. There's no police state. Okay, there is, but it's for your own good. This is a dehumanizing system. So I want to go back to Professor Daryl Hamamoto to be able to break this down and go over where he sees us going, finish up with, you know, recap the first professor at NYU, and then go to the other professor, because he's trying to introduce the term. We know about Cloward and Piven. That itself is just one popularized example of this thought of order out of chaos, this Leninist idea, destroy it, build it back up in their new image. So we're introducing the new current war, in his view, and I agree with him, what's currently happening, so we can identify it, educate others, be aware of it, and defeat it. They're trying to control the lexicon we use, a.k.a. Ingsoc, right out of 1984, where we can't even communicate with each other. When you hear Michelle Obama say, don't use the word bossy, that's not some Kurt Vonnegut satire. That's real, and they want you to learn that everyday words are bad and that you better only repeat what they say, and that's going to change day to day. As Karl Rove, bipartisan, told the New York Times, we control reality, we control the language, you will take whatever new reality we give you. We're talking about the end of free will, so I'm going to shut up. Professor, you've got the floor. Go ahead.
Yeah, so far as the First Lady boy is concerned, her scolding us for using the term bossy, I have a suggestion for her. How about biatchy? Would that be better for the First Lady boy? I don't know. But anyway, let me finish up with Rosaldo here with this notion of cultural citizenship. Part of this is to completely undermine this notion of national sovereignty. And the implication that is that if you are a Spanish-speaking person, or if you're part of the National Council La Raza, if you're part of the race, La Raza, or you are part of the people, then you are a citizen. The borders be damned. You are a citizen. You belong here. It's your birthright, because you are part of this new reformulation of what citizenship is, cultural citizenship, quote unquote. 2003. It's important to understand the genesis of these terms, because they leak into everyday discourse, and they affect political policy. The second person I wanted to talk about, and she's handling the Asian end of it, because that's going to be coming down the pike very soon. Large numbers of politically unstable, economically underdeveloped areas in China being brought into the United States, and they can dictate that to the United States because they own so much of our debt, and they want some sort of exchange. And one of the exchanges can be the exportation of political dissent to the United States, which is only going to compound the problem. And they have a ready-made front here. They have a whole 2 or 3 generations of educated middle-class people in the professions who have been reading the work and worshiping the intellectual superstar, because these are superstars. It's just like Hollywood. There's a star system in academia, believe it or not. We never hear about them, but there is one.
Sure, and then everyone else starts parroting what the superstar is, hoping they get a grant.
Right. They come from the elite institutions. They're the name brand marquee designer institutions. And every state university professor has to follow suit, or liberal arts colleges, down to the community college level. They set the tone, right? They're the head fish in the pilot fish school. So there's this person, her name's Iwa Ong, O-N-G, and she came up with a similar concept, similar to Rosaldo, and she calls it flexible citizenship.
Oh.
Flexible citizenship, 1999. She wrote an entire foundation-funded book on it. This made her reputation. So it's flexible. If you break it down now, it makes about as much sense as flexible pregnancy, right? You're either pregnant or you're not pregnant. You're either a citizen or you're a non-citizen. But by playing around with the language, Orwell calls it INGSOC. It's an old strategy. By reconceptualizing, remolding our perceptual basis, and then teaching generations of educated people that this is the way to go, then you have frozen any sort of discussion. And by the way, this is important. This is one of the reasons why, unlike the border agents, unlike the military, unlike growing numbers of individuals in all these important institutions, maybe even the majority of them now who are keyed in and are aware of the New World Order endgame, academia is utterly silent on this. This is the key reason, because we've already had 2 or 3 generations of undergraduates, graduate students, creating new generations of the professoriate who have monopolized any sort of discussion of this. And my function here is to put this out to the general public, to have them understand what they're paying for, so far as their tuition is concerned, for their students for their children to learn. So it's open kimono time, if you will, for here. I'm going to just open it up, full disclosure, and expose whatever I can from the inside of what the academic community has been doing to help usher in this New World Order endgame. It's a really, really crucial component. And it's so important that, as I mentioned last time, they even brought one of their top capos in, Janet Napolitano, to be the president of the University of California system in Oakland, California. So these are the 2 superstars in this framework. Now, there's another component, if I may change focus slightly, and that is what I alluded to earlier, and that's the GLBT agenda, gay, lesbian, bisexual, transsexual. And it has nothing to do with preserving the rights, the dignity of any of these groups. This is just simply another power block that is being exploited by the Rockefeller Foundation, Soros, and whoever else that gives them money, private corporations, you name it. It's a synthetically created, installed power block that's going to be, that already is in place, by the way. I've talked to other colleagues, and the upper level administration is already stocked with individuals like this. And the reason being is that if you criticize any aspect of the curriculum, any of the superstars within the university system, or even trivial points like banning smoking on the campus entirely, even in your own car, then automatically you become a homophobe. And no one wants to be stigmatized or labeled as being anti-human or homophobic or racist, whatever it is. So that's the second phase. The first part was with putting in a person of color in presidency and saying, oh, well, you can't criticize them, otherwise you're a racist. So the GLBT agenda is installed. It's very much an extension of what is referred to in this critical community as cultural Marxism. But again, cultural Marxism is an outdated phrase. It's fighting the last war. And just briefly, let me, like I did in the case of Rosaldo and Ong, identify 3 GLBT academic superstars that your viewers should be aware of. And they have had a huge, huge, huge impact on how the educated middle class, including its professionals, its attorneys, its physicians, its people in the sciences, they've had a huge impact, and there's very little discussion of these people in the larger society.
Professor, get into them. Yes. This is critical information.
Great. There's this one individual, her and him, because she goes by a dual gender identity. She goes by Jack/Judith Halberstam. She's at the University of Southern California, USC, or as we refer to it, the University of Spoiled Children. And she wrote a classic text called Female Masculinity, 1998. Talk about Baphomet, female masculinity. And she's talking about how gender roles are artificial, they're social constructions, and she lives her life and as a man/woman. If you want to look up her photos online, you can see what I mean. But so she's a key superstar. She has an endowed chair at the University of California. This is how they reward them.